Welcome to the Firefly Tutors TV podcast, where real teachers from all over the country discuss real solutions for parents and educators alike. Here's your host, Marissa Johnston.
Hello and welcome to The Buzz, brought to you by Firefly Tutors TV, where we talk to educators and parents all across the country on current topics affecting school children today. Welcome to the podcast, Kelly Wecker of Cleveland, Ohio, Star Galmore of Jacksonville, Florida, Kristyn Strauss of Bellevue, Washington, and I am your host, Marissa Johnston of Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We all sat down a couple weeks ago and talked about what is important in education today and came up with some topics including student confidence. Our discussion today covers creating courageous learners. Here are the questions we wanted to cover. Let me ask you, Kelly and Star, how does one-on-one learning impact students, and can classroom teachers meet the needs of every student?
Yeah, great question, Marissa. One-on-one learning is going to benefit a student in a number of ways. In a one-on-one setting, like a session with a tutor, the tutor can really take the time to get to know their students fully, learn about their interests, and tailor the learning to those subjects in which the student is interested. They can also more closely keep track of student progress and better gauge the student's successes and areas of struggle. Through those one-on-one interactions, students have an opportunity to build another relationship with a trusted adult. They trust their instructors and they're given a completely safe space to openly share. In a classroom setting, students can sometimes feel pressured by their peers, or they can feel some fear when they're answering questions. They may fear making a mistake or taking a risk. So when they have the opportunity to work one-on-one with a teacher or a tutor, they are able to build their confidence in that way, just having a free space to express themselves and ask questions as well as answer questions.
Yes, I agree, Kelly. Personalized learning makes learning fun, and it also makes it positive. And as we all know, that the love of learning leads to high achievement. This also allows for students to process information at their own speed, and this creates high quality interaction and instruction. So distractions are limited, stress is reduced, and educators have the adequate time and space to really check for understanding, and this ensures that no student falls between the cracks. Also, as we know, class sizes are growing and it's difficult for teachers to meet the needs of every student. Although teachers can definitely plant the seeds in each student, there are limitations when working in a whole group class setting.
Absolutely. Some students require more attention from a teacher than others, and we want to avoid students being left on that back burner. Sometimes very proficient students tend to be left to their own devices, not by any purposeful actions by teachers, just that some other students may need a little extra attention. So when we provide that one-on-one learning, we make sure that no one student is being overlooked. Even those proficient students or high-achieving students are given the attention that they need and deserve, and are given the same opportunity to reach their full potential.
Excellent points, ladies. Thank you so much. So, Kristyn, how can we create courageous learners? I think it's really important to keep in mind that while failure is a natural part of the learning process, it doesn't mean that the child is a failure. We can instead use failure to reflect on maybe what went wrong and what might work instead, and just model for kids how to accept failure and prevent it from happening again, but also to move forward and utilize that in their learning and their understanding and develop those problem-solving skills.
Absolutely, Marissa. And when we think of failure, we also think of success on the other end. Success can be very different to every student, parent, and teacher. So a good question to reflect on and ask yourself is, how do I define success in the classroom? Is it mastery of a skill? Is it making consistent progress? Is it getting the right answer versus the process and steps a student might take to get to that answer? But in my opinion, a more important question to reflect on and ask is, how am I supporting my students to feel successful? So what is motivating my students? Is it an intrinsic motivation For example, learning new vocabulary words because that student really loves to read, or an extrinsic motivation. So motivation because of external factors. Maybe it's passing a test or gaining a certain reward that we often have in classrooms. So to me, it's really co-creating and building a classroom that students have ownership in their learning, and the teacher is more of a facilitator where they can make that conscious effort in creating a classroom culture that embraces mistakes. And we're modeling that we're only human and we will make mistakes, not only in the classroom, but life in general. But it's okay to feel that way, to recognize it and almost honor that fear a little bit. We could go all the way back to how arguably one of the greatest minds in history, Albert Einstein, who is credited with saying, "I didn't fall 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." So truly, I think it's really just shifting our mindset and kind of supporting our scholars or our students in saying, did I really fail, or am I just one step closer to the answer?
Absolutely. Excellent points. And I want to add this quote as well, because it was one that stuck with me when I was a kid. And you guys may also remember it, but Mrs. Frizzle from the Magic School Bus used to tell her students every time, take chances, make mistakes, and get messy.
Yeah.
And I think that is just important for adults to remember when working with kids.
I agree.
So, how do we create effective feedback that builds students up? Kelly and Kristyn, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, feedback is an essential part of learning. So when we give it to students correctly, we can make a major impact in the way that they are learning and the way that they are feeling about themselves as a learner. So we want to start that feedback with praise. Give something specific that you noticed or saw that they were doing really, really well. You want to be as specific as possible, especially for those younger students, letting them know exactly what they did correct and why it was the right thing to do, what outcome it is going to bring. We also want to involve the student directly. So hopefully at some point before this feedback process, they were a part of setting these goals. They had a say in what the goal was. They had a say in what it was they were going to create or achieve. And when we involve students in that process, we're giving them ownership over their learning and ownership over their success. Another really important piece of giving feedback is that the feedback is timely. It comes immediately or within the action or assignment, whatever it may be that the student is doing really well. We want to make sure it's timely and matches what they're doing so that they can model or recreate that success in the future. And lastly, we want to identify how the behavior or the achievement relates to the student's goal, how it's going to make that next step, kind of like Kristyn was saying, make that 999th step towards the 1000th that's going to invent the light bulb or finish the essay in an excellent way or treat that other student with respect. Again, this type of feedback can be applied to academic goals as well as social goals or, interacting with siblings, anything like that. So when we're giving students clear feedback that's framed positively, we can really help them to know what it is they're doing well, and they can apply it in many different ways within their lives.
I agree, Kelly, and I think those are really, really strong points and really useful tips as educators or families at home that might be homeschooling for the first time. So I believe feedback is also an essential part of learning. And I know I keep prompting these reflective questions, but it's also best practice. So when I was a classroom teacher, I was constantly asking myself, what are the academic goals? I mean, you think back to how many conversations we had probably as a grade level team about what are those goals? Am I setting these goals, or are my students co-creating these goals? And what does that look like? Are my students aware of their goals? Do they have the proper tools and resources to achieve these goals? And are the goals attainable without lowering expectations? So I think the goal is really the overarching umbrella, and effective feedback is one element underneath that goal that is designed to really determine a learner's level of understanding and skill development, as you said, Kelly. and of course, to just plan the next steps towards achieving their learning intentions or goals. So involving students in feedback is crucial, excuse me. And in kindergarten, a goal for writing a strong sentence was having a capital letter to start the sentence, or you needed finger spaces between the words, or punctuation at the end of a sentence, and so on and so on. So I would maybe start by displaying a sentence to the whole class and asking my students for their help. Can they be detectives? Can they help Miss Strauss? Which they are always very eager to do. So it's really working together as a team to make this sentence stronger. And throughout them, of course, I'm thanking them for their help and consciously modeling phrases such as, "Oh yeah, I remember now." Or when we start a sentence, we make sure the first letter is capitalized. My brain is growing. And I know that's a much younger phrase that you would be saying in comparison to middle and high school, but just making sure that we're modeling that growth mindset as well for our students. And from there, they can really practice being their own detectives on their own work, and then buddying up with a friend and partnering together on offering one another feedback. Maybe it's on their own sentences for this example in particular. But I think later on and throughout the year, you use this similar model and you really build their level of feedback and reflection over time to just become more and more stronger.
Oh, great. Thank you, ladies. So how can we contribute to a child's confidence instead of fear? How can the adults in their lives contribute to that confidence rather than piling on the fear? I believe most of us do this on accident, is, adding to the fear that these kids have. So, one idea I have is make failures an exciting learning opportunity. Courage means acting without fear of making mistakes. So removing that fear is where we begin, right? And then be sure to acknowledge their fear. It is a part of the process and it's okay, but encourage students to feel the fear and go for it anyways. Star, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, so Marissa, I definitely agree. Letting students know that the fear is a part of the process, and it's okay to feel that fear, but it's not okay to allow it to paralyze us when striving to reach our goals. And I know Kristyn mentioned it a lot. The modeling is super important. Modeling vulnerability throughout the learning process as the adult, and showing students that, okay, I myself am open to learning from my own mistakes, and I'm okay with falling forward in my shortcomings. Also, when it comes to confidence in our abilities and reaching our goals, this can be very scary. So when working on goal setting with students, you want to ensure that they have a clear criteria for success, and you want to make these goals attainable. And remember to make small steps toward a greater vision. And also encourage students to strive for excellence over perfection. And always remember to celebrate the journey along the way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for speaking today. Our next episode's topic will be From A's in Elementary to F's in Middle School, What Happened? That sure will be a fun discussion. If you enjoyed our discussion today, please like Firefly Tutors on all of your social media hubs such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Find us on Pinterest, where we pin all of our favorite resources for parents and tutors. At Firefly Tutors, we believe every student deserves the opportunity to develop to their highest potential. See you next time on The Buzz.